Okay. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Lovely to see you all. This is my first time in Italy, so I'm very grateful. I've much enjoyed Tuscany, Florence. We took some time before the conference to check it all out. I'm Harris. People may know me because I brought my baby from America, the little piccolo bambino, so we've been carrying her around. So thank you, everyone, for understanding that. And if she cries, we tried to take her out of the event so she doesn't disturb anyone. But maybe she's the youngest longevity expert now in the world. She's only 5 months old. So I want to get into it today and share with you my passion. My passion is for really trying to lead and steward a global economic transition from an economy that is brain negative to an economy that is brain positive. So that's what I will tell you about. This is work that is in development. We're engaging with the United Nations, with the World Economic Forum, with national governments and private companies, but we need a coalition to do this. So I welcome teamwork and collaboration to achieve the end goal that I'm going to present today. I argue that actually this brain economy transition is a new vector for longevity. So I offer it to you guys as the longevity experts that tell me if you agree with me, and let's work out how to mesh the brain economy transition and longevity together. I am trained as a physician and neuroscientist. I also have training in business as an entrepreneur, and I work with a range of universities, think tanks, and private companies. So that's sort of where I'm coming to you from. And I live between California and Texas, originally from the Great Barrier Reef region of Australia, kind of like Crocodile Dundee, if anyone's seen that movie. So my argument is that our brains are our most important assets. This is across society, right? Across age groups, across men and women, and across all the different parts of society. Our brains determine how we remember, how we think, how we feel. They determine how we process information, how we read the news, how we get addicted to our phones or not. Really, really important. And our brains are not factored in when we think about public policy, when we think about how we run our countries and our economies. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to infuse deeply neuroscience into public policy and into economics and into finance and banking. That's what you'll see today. This is staggering data from our friends at the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation. The cost of mental and neurological disorders, from depression, anxiety, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, is literally $1.2 trillion per year. So this is affecting the economic security of nations. On the right-hand side, you can see with the stars there, the most burdensome economically conditions are anxiety disorders, depressive disorders, and migraine. And I personally live with migraine, and about a third of people have migraine as well. I won't ask you to put your hand up if you have migraine, but it's very, very common. So this is serious stuff, and this is going up 5.3% annually. So where are we going to be as a society in 10 years, in 20 years? Really profound, really profound. So just think to yourself, how does this impact you as an individual, family, friends, colleagues, people that you work with, your boss, your people that report to you? This is big stuff. It's actually now the leading cause of illness and disability above cancer and heart disease too. And this data came out, I think it was last week, that 1 in 3 people live with a neurological condition. Again, migraine, stroke, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's disease. So big stuff. This is, again, data from the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation. Just think about people that you know that have lived with stroke, encephalopathy, migraine, dementia. And we have previously thought about this stuff in terms of psychiatry, neurology. These are historic disciplines. We respect them. They've taken us a long way. But it's all very deficit focused. It's all focused on how depressed am I, how cognitively impaired am I. It's kind of, negative, trying to fix deficits, as opposed to talking about positives, flourishing, optimism. So brain capital is this new asset that we're proposing should be thought of by governments, by politicians, business leaders, as important as GDP, as important as road and bridge infrastructure, really critical to our economies, as important as our forestry, as our drinking water. And brain capital includes brain health, as you can see there on the left, and brain skills. So if you remember nothing else today other than me and my baby, it's brain capital, brain health and brain skills. The skills piece is interesting because it's all about what are the skills that we need as a country of Italy, for example, to be prepared and to flourish in the next couple decades. We need algorithm literacy, we need resilience, we need adaptability. So you can see here I'm really smashing the healthcare industry together with brain health, mental health, with education, with business, with the workplace, with labor markets. It's all coming together under the brain capital umbrella. So I also want to say that this talk is an extension of a talk given by my colleague Rim Ayadi the other day. Some of you may have seen her talk. She's a banking and finance professor. So just to make a shout out to Rim, and this is hopefully extending that presentation that she gave. So my argument, as I said at the start, is that the current economy is brain negative. Our current economy, just think about it, we're depleting our brain capital stocks, where our education systems are leaving people with autism and dyslexia stranded on the side of the education system. But all of us, right, we get the same education basically, but all of our brains are like fingerprints. They're all slightly different. Mental health systems, neurology systems, maybe is good for people in metropolitan areas, but if you're in a regional, rural area, you don't get access to good quality care. So there are many ways that we're really frittering away or wasting our brain capital. And this is a big problem because our brains drive the economy. So how do we transition to a brain positive economy? What are we doing with policy, with research, with startups, with investing? I think Lars from the McKinsey Institute talked about sovereign wealth funds, public pension funds. How are we going to change the economy? Because if we keep going as we're going, it's really unsustainable. This is just a little bit more of the model of the brain negative economy. And it's great to be near the end of the agenda because I can see that people have touched on much of this, so you guys will intuitively understand what I'm talking about. You can see here what makes our economy brain negative: the industrialized food system, air pollution. You know, the air pollution in Milan on Friday was not good, and in the last couple of days it's been really good. I personally could feel the difference. I didn't have a headache in the last couple of days, so plastic and chemical pollution. We have nanoplastics are breaking down. You know, plastic stuff that we use breaks into nanoparticles. It's on the top of Mount Everest, on the bottom of the deepest depths of the ocean. It's in women's breast milk. So as my wife is breastfeeding my baby, I think about, I really hope that there's not plastic in my wife's breast milk because maybe it gets into my baby's body. So this is serious stuff again, and it's all to do with the economy, right? Extreme weather events, mis and disinformation. As we ramp up, as I live in America, I know all too well we ramp up into the presidential election at the end of this year. Disinformation is rampant in the United States, and because of these advanced AI models, disinformation gets more and more, so people are losing their sense of reality. There's this concept of cognitive warfare. Foreign actors that are not democratic are influencing our information system and making people sort of lose sense of reality. Anyway, so on and so forth. You guys know this stuff very well, and we've been talking about it, but it all again comes back to the brain. So what are the results of this brain negative economy? It means education disruption, as we talked about before. It means low labor productivity. We're just not getting the most out of folks. It means social discord. I see a rise in populism, of course, in America, but also in Europe we see this now as well. And it ultimately leads to economic insecurity and national insecurity of democracies. I think, this has already been covered very well. The aging issue is impacting sovereign countries, sovereign nations. It's impacting pension funds. Some countries are really projected to almost run out of money in the coming decades. So again, just reinforcing this point that this is big stuff. And of course, dementia and late life depression and anxiety issues are going to be intertwined with all of this. So we need to transition optimistically. Let's get out of the doom and gloom. Let's talk about positivity. The brain positive economic transition is a goal that we can all agree on, right? If you're a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a school teacher, a business person, a mom, a dad, we can all agree that we need to transition to a brain positive economy. It's a common goal to build and preserve and protect brain capital. That's what we're trying to do in the next year, and then probably for the rest of my life. This is going to be a lifelong journey. It's important to recognize that the economy doesn't just impact our brains. We're not just passive. We actually influence the economy ourselves. Just think our creativity influences arts, influences new patents, influences new businesses. It drives the economy forward. We can decide to be pro-social or anti-social. This determines the economy. Green skills are a big thing in Europe in the context of the Green Deal. We can build our citizens' brains to have green brain capital, where we teach people ecological intelligence to buy the right kinds of stuff that's good for the planet. We can teach people green skills to be good engineers for sustainability of the future, better electricity systems that don't pollute as much, things like that. So we are agents in influencing the economy as well. We're not just passive. I wanted to mention, of course, in the context of late life, the brain is very powerful. We were talking yesterday, Tina and I, that productivity is very high as people get older. So what can we do to improve the productivity as people get older? How do we take the wisdom of people in their 50s, 60s, and 70s and nurture it and keep it and try to, pass it down to the next generations, or just allow people that are older in life to stay engaged in a purposeful work or volunteering? Wisdom has been shown in the brain to improve as people get older. This is work from UC San Diego from Dilip Jeste, who's a colleague. You can look at his work. I don't have time to go into it now, but literally people are looking at the brain structures and functions of wisdom and how it builds with age. Cognitive reserve is also a very positive idea. This idea that you can build up the reserve of your brain to protect from dementia and Parkinson's disease as you get older. So again, it's very optimistic. We can all do things today that can influence our cognitive reserve to help us later in life. And of course, social contributions. Older adults is not recognized in the formal economy and in GDP, but they give a lot of volunteer time, childcare, supporting, mentoring, things like that. So we, again, just bringing in economics, we need to think about this stuff and we need to include it in the longevity discussions. So we have a roadmap for a brain economy transition. We're about to publish on this through the Brookings Institution in a couple of weeks. We need to develop a shared vision and mission. As you know, we need to identify and engage key drivers and champions. So you guys, the longevity community hasn't been engaged in this discussion, which is why I'm so grateful to Viviana for inviting me to speak here. So who else needs to be involved in this? Private companies, public pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, politicians. We're working with people around the world, but always want to do more and more. We need to leverage and scale up existing initiatives. So which initiatives do you think are evidence-based? We've seen some nice stuff from, I think it was Andrea Meyer, Jan was telling me, that was great. So on and so forth. So there is a structured way to do this, and we're looking to do this with the UN and the World Economic Forum in the coming years. There are metrics to measure brain capital, looking at the determinants of brain capital and brain health and brain skills. You can Google this and read more about it, but we are working on country by country level data and trying to turn it into an actual index, so we have a single number for how does Germany compare to Italy, for example. So this is exciting work, and again, just check it out online. Industrial innovation policy is important. As I said, I'm a public policy guy. I like to think about this stuff. I see a lot of industrial innovation here in startups and investors, but what is the policy of longevity industrial innovation? What is the policy? What are we doing? How do we coordinate with government instead of, the private sector doing its thing and the government not doing anything? How do we align the incentives, public-private? This is just like Operation Warp Speed that developed the COVID vaccine. That's the kind of thinking we need to have. This was industrial innovation policy, and what are we going to do in the longevity space? And so this is a piece of work that we would need to talk about, and we can talk about at the lunch break. So how do we boost brain capital? I wanted to give a shout out to Humans Matter, who is here from Paris. It's a cognitive design firm that's actively thinking and collaborating with me about how do we change behaviors to boost brain capital? How do we get people to exercise more, make the right decisions, less multitasking, not get addicted to their smartphones, healthier food? This kind of advanced cognitive design is really important, and so we're mapping and thinking about how do you cognitively design a country? What are we going to do to France as a country to cognitively design France to make it better for brain capital? This is the sort of big audacious work that we're doing with Humans Matter and thinking about it across the lifespan. And Humans Matter has a particular interest in building human agency. So anyway, you get the point there. It's important to recognize that I'm glad to see this come out in the cities panels, that technology, industrial innovation will not solve everything, right? We used to think that technology would solve everything with social media, and lo and behold, it's almost more bad than it is good. So we need to recognize with longevity, we won't solve it all with magic bullets, you know, pills and molecular stuff. That's going to be probably more important, but we also need to think, in a sense, post-industrial. This is policy wonk speech for saying that stuff that's not technology. So why would we invest $2 billion in Parkinson's innovation for new drugs when we're spraying pesticides that cause Parkinson's, that kind of thing? So what are we going to do to regulate or cancel the use of those pesticides that cause Parkinson's disease? And so this city discussion is wonderful because it allows us to really think in a way beyond technology about the built environment. So this again is what we're interested in doing in the brain economy transition, to think forensically through this. We need to measure and invest in social production, as I mentioned before, you know, volunteerism, childcare, etc. We have projects going on measuring all of this. So again, another important way of thinking about, you know, if you were a politician thinking about your longevity of your citizens and the brain economy, what is a dashboard that we can give you where you can measure in real time this type of social production and brain health and brain skills measures? I wanted to make a mention that there are some really nice national brain health plans. The top one is coming out of Switzerland, which is run by a neurologist, Claudio Bassetti from University of Bern. This is a nice way to think of a nation state. How do you build the brain health of a nation? Education, healthcare, training of professionals, and public health. And then also the one below is from Finland as well. So it's also very impressive. So, you know, what are we doing in Italy in regards to brain health plans, or in regions of Italy? This is, again, it's a new instrument. We've been publishing recently on brain longevity cities, but that's been covered in the last couple of hours, so I won't belabor on that. I think it's a very meritorious pursuit. One of the things I get criticized for, of course, is that this brain economy transition is a bit, you know, theoretical or hard to grasp. So if we do it in actual concrete with buildings, then it's proof that this can be done. So there's a new field of neuroscience-inspired architecture, which is doing this kind of work, designing buildings and such with neuroscience in mind. So we need a convergent policy agenda. We need to not just think about health policy and doctors, and, you know, I'm a doctor, so I like that, but we need to think beyond it. We need to think about digital policy, social media, food systems, et cetera, Public policy helps us to do that. And then if we merge public policy with private sector, we can get that nice juxtaposition and engagement between public and private. And of course, we have a lot of this nice minestrone of public people and private people here today. That's my little corny shout out. I'm a dad now, so I can make dad jokes. So we have some upcoming events I want to mention. We have a federal congressman in the United States. We're going to do an event on Thursday in Houston, Texas. So I have to fly back to Houston very shortly to go and visit with this congressman. So you're welcome to listen in on the Zoom there, unless anyone wants to fly to Texas with me. But more realistically, we have the UN General Assembly on the right there in September. We're going to have 3 days of programming. So please come up and let's talk about how to engage you all in those 3 days of programming. The UN is, I think, a great way to continue to foster this thinking about the brain economy and longevity. So thank you very much. I hope that was interesting and a neuroscience spark for everyone.
Thanks so much.